Odysseus. The crew of lonely men scanned the horizon for many days in search of their native land. It was a still, unknown strand, on which Odysseus ordered the ship beached.
"Light the fires,"
he said to his men,
"and rest here. I shall see what lies beyond that crag."
Odysseus followed a trail and saw a distant column of smoke, but he decided to come back to his ship as he was hungry. While coming back, he noticed a stag. He thought,
"The gods must have led me to this beast, and my men are also hungry."
He brought the beast down with but one arrow. His men prepared a meal and satisfied their hunger. After the meal, Odysseus told his men of the wisp of smoke he had seen. On hearing this, his men recalled the cruel fate of their comrades at the hands of the Cyclops and the Laestrygonian, and broke down with loud lamentations. Odysseus then divided the men into two groups, one under his command and the other under the command of a noble young man named Eurylochus. Lots were cast to decide which party would set off to investigate the source of the smoke. It fell to Eurylochus's group to do so, and he set off with his men into the woods. In due course, the men approached a clearing where stood a palace. All around it roamed wild beasts. Suddenly, an enormous lion appeared before them, but it did not attack anyone.
"Why, this beast is as tame as my dog,"
cried one of the sailors.
"Everything seems to be weird here,"
said another.
"Listen, do you hear a sweet voice?" "Yes, it's a strange melody it sings. It seems to come from that palace. Come, let us find the maid who sings this strange tune."
They came to the door of the palace, and one of them shouted,
"Hail to you, a maiden of glorious voice! Are you a goddess?"
The next moment, Circe, the enchantress, came out and invited them to enter. The men were at once bewitched. All but Eurylochus followed her into the hall. A great feast was set before them. In their innocence, they ate and drank the wine, and were immediately turned into swine with pigs' heads and bristles and noisy grunts. However, their minds were as human as before. Eurylochus was at the gate. He thought,
"It's queer. I do not hear the voices of my men. I can only hear the grunts of swine. What can have happened?"
A swineherd approached, and Eurylochus asked him,
"Good man, have you seen some Greek soldiers in your mistress's palace?"
The goatherd shook his head sadly and replied,
"They have met the same fate as all those who have been lured by Circe. They too have been turned into swine."
Filled with misgivings, Eurylochus rushed back to the camp and told Odysseus of the horrifying evil that had befallen his men.
"Fetch my sword and my bow,"
said Odysseus.
"and lead me to the palace." "It's madness,"
said Eurylochus.
"You will never rescue your men, and you won't come back yourself. I'm certain of it. Please don't force me to go with you."
Desperate though the situation seemed, Odysseus was determined to attempt the rescue of his men. So he set out alone. As he penetrated deeper into the forest, he encountered Hermes in the form of a beardless youth. Hermes approached Odysseus and said,
"I suppose you have come to rescue your companions from Circe's evil spell. By yourself, you are likely to suffer the same fate as your friends. However, I shall help you, and with my help you will not fail."
Hermes then warned Odysseus of Circe's evil designs and advised him of the course of action he would have to follow to foil her. Then he gave Odysseus a plant with a black root and a white flower, which the gods called Moly.
"This,"
said Hermes,
"would make you immune to Circe's sorcery."
Odysseus journeyed on and finally found himself in front of Circe's palace.
"This must indeed be Circe's palace,"
he thought.
"I can hear the sweet music that lured my men."
He came up to the palace and shouted,
"Hail, fair Circe! Open the gates to a wandering Greek."
The gates immediately swung open before him, and he saw a beautiful woman standing there. "Welcome, noble Greek," she said. "Come and refresh yourself at our table." She offered him wine and said, "Quench your thirst, Greek. Whither art thou bound?" As Circe passed the cup, she dropped something into the drink. Unnoticed by Circe, Odysseus dropped his charm into the cup.
"I seek my companions, whom fate has visited with sadness,"
said Odysseus as he drank the wine. "Little does he realize how soon he will join them," thought Circe to herself. Hardly had he drained the cup when she struck him with the wand and cried, "Go now to the sty and live with your companions."
"Not so fast, evil muse,"
cried Odysseus, and following Hermes' instructions, he drew his sword in a flash and rushed at Circe to kill her. "Have pity, fair Greek," she cried. "I am a weak maiden." Odysseus, remembering that Circe alone could break the spell which had turned his men into swine, stayed his hand.
"You would harm me as you did my men,"
said Odysseus. "But my magic did not harm you," she said. "How could this happen?"
"It is because the gods favor me,"
replied Odysseus. She now fell at his feet and said, "Surely you must be Odysseus. No other mortal could resist my charm. Let us be friends."
"You are mocking me? Have you not turned my men into swine and also tried to destroy me?"
"Stay, Odysseus," Circe pleaded. "I swear by the gods to do you no harm."
"First you must restore to me my men."
With these words Odysseus sheathed his sword. Circe now took her wand and went to the sty where Odysseus's men were shut. Odysseus followed at a safe distance. The tormented beasts rushed from the sty at a command from Circe. As the animals came out, Circe touched each one with her wand, and at once the bristles fell from their bodies. With amazement, Odysseus saw the swine become men again.
"The gods be thanked, for you return, my friends,"
exclaimed Odysseus. The rescued men also marveled, because they had become younger and more handsome than they had been before. Circe sincerely regretted her treatment of the Greeks. "Sir, I pray, let your men be my guests, that I may make amends," she said. For a whole year, Odysseus and his men stayed with Circe in her enchanted castle. At the end of the year, however, the men said to Odysseus,
"Should we not be thinking of going home?"
Odysseus knew they were right. He came to Circe and said,
"It is time for us to leave. Pray, do what you can to help us on our way."
"I would not keep a guest against his will," said Circe with tears in her eyes. "Ready your ships, and I'll provide you with food and drink." When they were ready, Circe warned Odysseus of the dangers to avoid if they wished to get safely home. Then Odysseus called his men and said,
"Now we are bound for Ithaca, our home.